Good afternoon. This video is a quick chat about forthcoming Peter Pig set of rules called the Company Rules, TCR. It's a science fiction set, but it's quite generic. But what it isn't is King Arthur and Merlin in space. There's no magic in it. There's no heroic individuals. It's a plausible sci-fi. Sort of books I was thinking like Robert Heinlein's Starship Troopers. Not the film, but the book. So the idea is there are three types of troops. We're based on Roman names. There's Praetorians, which are these. The figure's actually inside the suit there, between my top and bottom of the finger there. It's like a little carapace. It's inside with remote controlled arms, weapon system, legs. Those would be the Praetorians. Next one down is the Legionaries. Legionaries are two figures to a base. There we go, two figures to a base. They've got their jetpacks, guns and things like that. There we go. That's Legionaries. The third type of figures in this are auxiliaries. They're still proper troops. These aren't people with muskets and knives like in sci-fi films. They're still proper troops. Auxiliaries, 3 to a base. Legionaries, 2 to a base. And Praetorians, 1 to a base. Now in this game, the Praetorians are far, far better than anything. So they're more powerful than a tank, they're faster than a tank, they've got more protection than a tank, etc, etc. Therefore, in this game, TCR, the company rules, there aren't any tanks and big howitzers, mortars and things. This is the height of warfare. This figure here should be able to kill and beat anything. Possibly. Legionaries should be very, very good. 2 figures to base, very powerful, but not quite as good as Praetorians. And third in the line comes the auxiliaries, who are good troops. Now, TCR, the company rules, models small battles or small actions between small forces. A typical force might have about 8 bases in total. Maybe a couple of these Praetorians, maybe 1 or 2 legionaries, maybe 4 of these auxiliaries. Some force can have all Praetorians or all legionaries, etc, etc. So the game is quite easy to fund. You only need about 20 figures and you're on your way. Now, other little odds and ends to mention in the game is that there's also this, which is interesting. These are the non-combatants. These are technicians and the like, making a run for it. We've made these into sort of a game marker. The length of the game is determined by these people travelling around the edge of a table as a marker, not as particular targets. And each turn, there's a dice, take 2 spots. She could even get a -1, etc, etc. Higher she can get is 4. And that's how many squares that go around the edge. There are 28 squares around the edge of a table. Each player rolls in their own turn. Therefore, you're getting about 10 turns each. There we go. And as I say, these are technicians making a run for it. That's what technicians would do if there was a battle going on. They wouldn't be standing around, unless they're a little bit foolish. And there's the basic figures. Now, a little bit more about each one. These Praetorians, in the game, TCR, they can fly along, which is nice. They can walk along if they like. They can launch mines. Now, the mines are a bit like sentient. They can be sent out and they're left to just sit and wait. They can ambush people, etc, etc. They're mines. They can also put up blockers, which is a thing that can stop any movement through a side of a square, etc, etc. The legionaries do have some deflection ability, like Praetorians. Not a huge amount, and some recovery ability. There we go. The auxiliary, who are awfully cheap, they don't get much recovery ability. The firepower's pretty good, though, and there they are. But once again, these are plausible sci-fi. These are not the heroic people with a knife or a stick that one might see in a sci-fi movie. Now, there's one other sort. We got an alien form, of course. I think it's we have to have an incumbent on us to have one. And there they are. They're called the creepers. Basically, we've made them slashy type bitey things. They're in bases of 3. They have completely different rules than the other troop types. And these ones can actually regenerate a little bit. And they're quite good in undergrowth and light. They're called the creepers. Now in TCR, company rules, you could use any figures you like as long as you have a best, middle and worst category. If you want to use Doctor Who models where you could have 3 Doctor Who's as your best men, 7 Doctor Who's your middle men, 20 Doctor Who's your poorest, etc., etc. But this isn't the retelling of a film or a TV series. This is a game where both players get a chance to win. Now, just to show you a few more, some of this glitter's coming off. These Praetorians, I've got a couple there. There they go. There's another one here. You can see they come as separate parts with arms and things, and this shows what group Praetorians look like. So, there's a whole force of Praetorians. If you had that many Praetorians, that would be your whole force. All done. But they look quite nice. I've gone for blue because blue's a nice planetary colour. You could use green or whatever you like. It really doesn't matter. The rules are very, what should we say, very free and easy. People can feel whatever they like. Now, gone for square bases because all the men operate in groups. They're not individuals, well, apart from Praetorians, of course. The idea is they should be operating together. What they don't do is form up like English Civil War units and fight like that. So they don't fight like this. In a typical 6-inch square in TCR, you might have 1 base, possibly 2. Because your whole force only consists of about 8 bases. And with 8 bases, you can't cover all the objectives and everything needs to be done. And that's an introduction to TCR, the figures. These are 15mm. Of course, these are much bigger because they would contain a 15mm person. There they go. That's what they would contain. And they're by Peter Pig. And they come in packs of 8 for the ordinary figures. We do separate heads if you want to convert the heads by twisting these off, replace them with different types of heads. So you've got 3 or 4 other types of heads in the Peter Pig heads range. And that's TCR.